Well, everyone, Mac and I and friends made it to and from the Hill Country Rally, a total of 3,700 miles. This is what happens when you add oil on the side of the road. I think the funnel wasn't done draining and it just collected all that dirt there. There's not a leak in the engine, but the air filter has definitely collected some dirt. Rock chips like this can be fixed. In my book, any damage the car incurred is certainly fixable, and that's what this build was designed to do. This is always going to be like a cheap car for me. This is a $4,000 stripped out shell, and it's a toy, and it's meant to be enjoyed and played with, which we did. We pushed the cars pretty hard on the Hill Country Rally. 35-degree temperature days, 95-degree temperature days. We had some rain. We had, suspension travel up, down, full compression. Hit the bump stops several times. Doing corners at, my limit was really fun in the car. Most of the miles were on the way there. Paul from Auto Kennel and Steve from 2 Lane Tours led us on a route that was amazing. It was a more southern route than we did last year, a little bit less twisties, but lots of great places to pull over and check out the sights and so forth. I totally recommend taking the road less traveled. We were on the interstate for like a fraction of the time, like less than 100 miles of interstate. Everything else was like small roads. These roads require all your attention. There's way more sightseeing. There's interesting things the whole time. So it is much more engaging than just trucking along on an interstate. I highly recommend it. The trip was great. A lot of you have followed the build of this car since day one, so I'm sure you're curious how the car actually performed and what went wrong with it. So give you a few things that happened along the way. About 100 miles in, we pulled off in Julian. We took a mountainous road even to get to the start of the rally. We noticed the speedometer was squealing really bad. The speedometer cable is new. The speedometer has been idle for who knows how many years. And it just started squeaking to the point where it was really annoying. So it was either disconnected altogether, but I kind of wanted to have some odometer function. So we pulled the gauge out, dipped a little bit of Marvel Mystery Oil. That was all I had. It's what I typically put in the fuel tank as a fuel additive. It's a real lightweight oil, and that did the trick. Probably not the best choice of oils, but it certainly quieted it down for the remainder of the trip. And at some point, that will come apart and get overhauled. But Marvel Mystery Oil fixed that one, and it really only took 10, 20 minutes to do that. So clearly it's a very, barren interior. One thing that happened on the trip is this side has the window pull to get the window up and down. This belt is 100% natural leather. It's pretty thick, but it's stretched. So what happens over time is the gap here at the top of the window gets larger and larger. We had a lot of wind noise coming through here, which was kind of annoying. So of course you can put new holes in the belt. Like I put a new hole in the belt there for the way home. But this material, you can almost tell, is stretching right here. That is not good. This side, on the other hand, is a synthetic leather belt, or it's got some internal core to it. This one performed really well. It didn't stretch at all. So the driver's window worked fine. It is hard to reach when you're driving. You have to reach over with your right hand to pull it down while you're holding onto the wheel. So it's a little difficult to use, but I don't know how else to put the strap there because it has to attach pretty much to the center of the window. Otherwise, I think I'll have a hard time getting it to pull up. In the future, this window will be remade with plexi. Right now I'm running the glass windows, which is heavier. So I think it'll be easier to use when I switch to a thick, equivalent thickness to the glass. I go plexi on that. It should be easier to raise and lower it. So that's an improvement I'd like to make. And then even on my side with the window all the way up, this is the original window seal. It either needs to be replaced, which I think I'll just replace it, but it has some leaks up here in the corner. So I didn't have time to adjust the window frame and dial in all the contact, but in order to get the noise down, I think the number one thing to do is to fix all the air leaks first and then deal with the sound insulation. I don't want to add extra weight to this car. It's meant to be a lightweight, project. But I did notice that with our bags here in the back, we had our duffel bags in the back here with the roll bar. It made a pretty significant reduction in noise. Maybe do some kind of like removable sound deadening or start to experiment with a little bit of sound deadening. I don't really mind the sound until we get in highway speeds. Some of the freeway speed limits were 80. So if we're going 80 with the windows up, we would just put in our AirPods, our foam earplugs, and it was fine. I thought the car sounded great when we were doing more of the slower canyon roads, 60 miles an hour or less. We just took our AirPods out and listened to the engine. On the way home, it was more straight interstate, so I was listening to podcasts on the way home. The other thing that happened is I started hearing some suspension bushing noise. I'm using the Rebel Racing bushings, and it's too early to tell, and I don't know if it's because I had more weight in the car, but I was getting some clicking that would go away when you're going downhill on the brakes. So I feel like this needs to be adjusted. This space right here has grown too much, and I don't know if it's from winching this in and out of the garage or if it's just wearing or if it needs an adjustment, but I was picking up more noise than usual. And even though we bottomed out the suspension and scraped a little bit here, the only place that really touched is this tow hook, which is ideal. There's no scrapes on the bottom of the bumper, and the oil lines were not damaged whatsoever. So really happy about that. My car is not super low either, and I'm running the stock suspension. The torsion bars in the front are the 18.9 millimeters. They're pretty soft. The other thing, which is probably the biggest bummer, is I started to get a transmission oil leak coming out of the clutch area. So I think it's the input shaft seal. I did not do the update on this early transmission. I think this is from a 72. And those early seals are problematic. And I think either the way I installed it with the hole in the guide tube with the dam seal, I don't know if I damaged it by putting the hole in. I seem to remember that I nicked it when I drilled the hole in the guide tube, or it's just the early style steel is not as robust. So anyways, that means that I either have to build my second transmission, which is the limited slip, higher performance version, or I gotta take this one out and fix it. I think I'm probably inclined to fix this one because ultimately I wanna sell it and recoup some of the rebuild costs for the new transmission, which has all the go fast whiz bang parts in it. And because it was leaking, I decided I wanted to add some transmission fluid to it, or gear oil. So I did pump in some gear oil, got the car up on like a curb so it was safe to get underneath there, was able to get the drain plug off, which was tough, and we pumped in some oil. I found out that my axle boot, the CV boot, was torn. So rather than remove the entire axle, I just got a hotel trash bag and some electrical tape and just taped that thing. And it made it most of the way home without getting contaminated, I think. There was no rain on the way home. There were some dirt parking lots in and out of some of the Texas barbecue joints and stuff. So I was trying to keep dirt out of it. And I think I was able to save the joint and at least get the car home. I did bring this inflatable cell seat pad. These seats are bucket seats. They're sort of racing type seats with big bolsters on the side, but they're actually really soft. So I thought it was comfortable. I mean, I did use this inflatable guy here. Passenger didn't, but other than not being adjustable, I thought they did well on a long trip. I'm pretty happy with the seats. My steering wheel is starting to wear through. This is the Benetton steering wheel that was dyed black. So it's actually made up of 4 segments. This is yellow, this is green, This side is, I think, blue, and then this side is probably red. So it's starting to wear through. The car does pull to the right just a little bit, so I was probably holding my hand here more than anything else. But alignment wasn't bad at all. We did bring these earmuffs in case it got really bad, but never used them. We have a walkie-talkie with an earpiece, so if we're having trouble hearing the walkie-talkie from other cars, you can put the earpiece inside these earmuffs and you could hear it really well. But we were able to hear the radio pretty easily. And then I realized that by putting this in between here, it actually props up these seatbelt receptacles. And so this is an improvement I'm very much interested in doing, because you can put your seatbelt on with one hand. Without something to prop these up, you have to lift them up here from the base. So I would much rather they just stay right here. So I'll probably 3D print or do some kind of receptacle to keep these in the right spot. They are attached to the factory holes in the factory bolts. It's just, they need to be up here. And on the freeway on hot days, this vent 100% works. Super happy with this. Doesn't do much for the passenger, but at least for me, I got wind directly in my face. Almost to the point where without sunglasses, it would like dry your eyes out. It's a lot of airflow. Works great. We did hit some rain in the Arizona, Tucson area on the way out. The windshield wipers were great. They worked perfectly. Also, the defroster did work really well. Not good enough to really heat up the car. There were some mornings where we were wearing our jackets for probably longer than we should. So I'll do more to either add a vent for more airflow into the cabin, hot air, and also probably connect the passenger side heat exchanger, because these heat exchangers are not the factory ones. They're not as efficient as the original Porsche equipment. So more heat into the cabin was something that I want to update. Fuel injection wise, the car did really well. I had not had the opportunity to do much tuning at real low temperatures. So at 35-degree mornings, I brought my laptop, I was logging the cold start parameters. I ended up making a change to only the cold start parameters for really low temperatures. 35 degrees was just added more cranking fuel to get it to start a little quicker. The 2 times that it was really cold, you had to let off the key, turn the key back on, which effectively is adding more fuel because it goes through the cycle again. And it started up, no problem. The idle control valve was open 99%. And even with the idle control valve at 99%, 100% open, it still would idle at around 1,000 to 1,100. Target at those temperatures is like 1,500. So the only other way to increase the idle speed is to add more timing at those low temperatures. So that's something that I can continue to tweak, but it was great to be able to get some colder temperatures and some data on that. We also had the laptop out when we were going, driving on the road. We had it out going over the pass. I think it was like 5,000 feet or so. The compensations in the M-tron were doing great at keeping the fuel trims right where they should be. So it does compensate for barometric pressure. It also compensates for things like really hot engine temperatures, which we never got to that. My oil cooler was keeping the engine temperatures pretty low. We actually taped up some of the front oil cooler because it was a little bit too low. The fuel mileage, we didn't check it every single time. We were topping up the tank quite often, and I just didn't log every single fill up. I was tracking the miles, which I think are pretty accurate in kilometers. My odometer is in kilometers, but we were doing the math. The worst fuel mileage we got was 22, and the best was 25. Fuel injection was, like I said, running great. Hot starts, cold starts, no coughs, sputters, couple backfires out the exhaust, but that's when we were really driving it hard. So I think I'm really happy with the fuel injection. Kinsler, like I said, is the best, and it performed very, very well. The headlights are going to get upgraded. They are, even though I adjusted them a little bit, they're still pointed too low, and they're just not that bright. So new headlights on their way. So I don't think I forgot anything. That's kind of my impressions of the car on the long road trip. My Carrera did the same road trip last year, you know, the Cabriolet. That car is more comfortable. It's heavier and probably a better touring car, but I would take this car over the silver Carrera any day. I had way more fun in this car, despite the noise, despite the newness of it and sort of the raw engine feel. It is way better, in my opinion, than the silver car. The silver car and the yellow car have the exact same engine, 3.2 liter stock internals. The difference being the engine management on this one and the individual throttle bodies just bring up the responsiveness, and the torque is instantaneous. It's really fun. It changes the whole driving feel of the engine. Plus this has the shorter gear ratio, the 731 ring and pinion, so it's really snappy. I thought it was way more fun. So after driving, I think it was 1,900 miles to actually get to the event. That's when the adrenaline just kicks in again, because now you're reuniting with old friends, you're making new friends, there's 300 plus cars there, crazy builds, some real simple builds, stock cars, modified cars. It's just like the best you could ever ask for. I don't know how to describe the camaraderie and the people, but that's really what makes this event super cool to meet many of you, and I don't know what else to say other than you have to try it at least once. If it's not the Hill Country Rally, there's several rallies across the country. They just are a ton of fun. I'm gonna leave you guys with a little bit of footage that's in no particular order, just driving, socializing, whatever the case may be. It was a blast. So thank you all for making this happen, and thank you all for all your support getting this car back on the road. A little extra special for me, being an owner builder. I think it's a whole different level of difficulty and a whole different level of attention and focus. And for me, this was really interesting. Loved every minute of it.